Google just confirmed something that's been rumored in southern Minnesota for over a year. They're building a massive data center in Pine Island, about 70 miles southeast of the Twin Cities. And the way they're doing it is different from almost every other data center project in the country. I want to walk you through what's actually happening, not the press release version, not the panic version, the honest version. I'm Dawn Crow. I'm a residential real estate agent here in Dakota County. I track development stories like this one because they tell you where the market is headed long before the listings do. So let's get into it. So here's the shape of it. Google is anchoring a 482-acre technology park called Project Skyway, developed by Ryan Companies. Their first phase is roughly 250,000 square feet of data center, plus a 35,000 square foot office building sitting on about 88 acres of that site. Construction is expected to start before the end of the year, and the reason this took so long to become public, Pine Island was one of at least 8 Minnesota cities that signed a non-disclosure agreement just to talk about the project. Internally, it was codenamed Project Skyway. That's fairly standard for a hyperscale tech deal, but it's part of why residents felt blindsided when the announcement finally came. And this part is the part that's worth slowing down for because it's genuinely a different playbook than most data centers you might have read about. First, the money. Google isn't just paying its own electric bill. Under a new agreement structure with Xcel called the Clean Energy Accelerator Charge, Google is funding 1,400 megawatts of new wind power, 200 megawatts of solar, and 300 megawatts of long-duration battery storage, a battery system that can discharge power back into the grid for over 100 straight hours when the wind and solar outputs dip. That's far beyond what a typical grid battery can do. So here's the part I think most people miss. Google isn't wiring solar panels directly to this building. They're paying to get that new wind and solar built onto Xcel's shared grid, the same grid the whole region draws from. And they're not getting a discount for it. Google actually pays a premium rate under this agreement, and that premium is what funds the build out, plus 100% of any new grid infrastructure. The idea is Google's usage gets offset by what they're putting in, so existing customers don't see bills go up or their reliability go down because Google showed up. I want to be straight with you. That's the plan as Google and Xcel has described it. It hasn't been tested yet. Construction hasn't started, and the agreement still needs approval from Minnesota Public Utilities Commission. Whether ratepayers actually feel zero impact once this facility is running at full draw is exactly what regulators and the pending environmental lawsuit are going to be watching over the next few years. Second, water. This is the issue that sunk data center proposals in other states. Google says it will use advanced air cooling technology in Pine Island, which essentially removes the water-intensive cooling from the equation. That's a direct response to the most common community objection nationwide. Third, the tax picture. The city approved a package that could abate up to $36 million in property taxes over 28 years. Even with that abatement, officials project Pine Island collects roughly $131 million in new tax revenue over the life of the deal, plus close to $27 million split between city and school district funds. I'd be doing you a disservice if I made it sound like everyone's thrilled. It isn't that simple. A residential group calling itself Stop the Pine Island Data Center has organized against the project. The Minnesota Center for Environmental Advocacy filed a lawsuit in October challenging the environmental review the city completed. And residents at multiple town halls have raised real questions whether that environmental review was sufficient, what the neighborhood impact looks like, and whether 36 million in tax abatement is too generous for a company Google's size. Those aren't fringe concerns. They're the same questions every Minnesota community is going to have to sit with because Google isn't the only one coming. There are at least a dozen large-scale data centers in some sort of planning stage across the state right now. Here's where I'll give you my honest read as someone who watches this market for a living. Data centers reshape a region in three ways: jobs, tax base, and grid capacity. A 250,000 square foot facility brings high-paying construction jobs now and a smaller but stable number of permanent technical jobs later. The tax revenue, even discounted by the abatement, is the kind of money that funds schools and infrastructure in small cities for decades. And the grid investment, if it plays out the way Xcel describes it, adds capacity that benefits the whole region, not just Google's fence line. Of course, none of that guarantees rising home values in Pine Island or the surrounding townships, but it's the same pattern that's shown up historically wherever a major employer plants a long-term flag: steady population interest, new construction activity, and a local economy with more than one leg to stand on. If you own property in that corridor or weighing whether southeastern Minnesota belongs on your radar, this is the kind of development worth tracking over the next 2 to 3 years, not reacting to overnight. So that's the honest version of the Pine Island story. What Google is actually funding, what they're doing different on water and grid costs, and where the real friction still lives. I'll keep tracking this one as the Public Utilities Commission review moves forward and that lawsuit plays out. If you want to talk through what growth like this could mean for a specific property or area in Dakota County, drop it in the comments or reach out directly. I'm Dawn Crow, and that's The Honest Move.